All right, hello, and this is the Bhagavad Gita study group. And we will start with the chant, and if you can see the chat window, Jim, it keeps, okay. Okay, so today, Jim, I'm going to be managing the mute on the window here. So we'll see if I'm able to, but I just muted you, and so you don't want to touch that now. And the words to the chat are in the chat window. If you can see the chat window within the Google Hangout. In this world, Mother, no one can love me. In this world, they do not know how to love me. Where is their pure loving love? Where is their truly loving thee? There my soul longs to be. And this might sound, I don't know, like there's no love for me in this world, and maybe that sounds really depressing in a way, but what's actually happening here is that, oh, we got Yash. Okay, Yash, I'm going to put you on mute. Okay. Yay. All right. So, Yash, the words to the chant are in the chat window, so you can open up the chat window. And I was just saying that it might seem a little depressing to say that there's no love for me in this world, but any love that you're trying to get through an object or another human, unless they are completely able to tap into the divine energy and presence, there's some faultiness with it. There's something that it's lacking, or that it's not meeting up to. It's never going to satisfy you because it's never as powerful as God's love. And a lot of times when I get upset that something isn't going my way, or I'm not getting as much connection or love from somebody that I'm interacting with, I turn to this chant because it just reminds me where the true love is. It's within God, and I need to just remember to love God within that person and feel the amount of God that is in them flowing back towards me, and think more on the soul level than the personality level. So that's a big lead into this chant, but I think it helps a lot with the topics of this section. And, oh, what did I do with it? There we go. Hopefully you can hear the chanting well, but chanting usually comes out better when I switch the microphones a little bit. So we'll meditate now for about 5 minutes, and you can go ahead and close your eyes, sitting up nice and tall in your spine, and breathing deeply, inhaling and exhaling. You can practice some measured breathing, inhaling for 5 counts, holding the breath for 5, exhaling for 5. And the Hong Sa technique, silently saying inhale, silently saying Hong while you inhale, and Sa while you exhale, breathing at your natural rhythm, giving yourself a moment at the end of meditation, just looking up to the point between the eyebrows, enjoying the sense of peace and calmness you may feel. You can slowly open your eyes and bring yourself out of meditation. I know I just made you big, Yash. I don't know why. When I mute people, I can't unmute them. So Yash, can you unmute yourself? Do you see where to do that? There's either a bar at the top or a little arrow in the top right of your little box.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I guess you can't hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. You there?
Are you hearing me right away?
I wouldn't know. Maybe there's a slight delay.
Okay, I'm unmuted, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead and mute yourselves again. Alright, I can mute you if you want. But I can't unmute you. I can only quiet you, but I can't unquiet you. Okay. So... Yash?
Yeah, probably if we mute ourselves, you can't unmute us. But I can free myself, so there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I muted you guys, but it's fine. Okay, Yash, since you're unmuted, why don't you start and let us know about the homework assignment.
What's the name of the other participant?
Oh, okay. So let me tell you who's here. So you have Jim in the Google Hangout, and then we have Janet on the phone. Here's Janet. And when Janet speaks, I have to hold her right to the mic. And then Amy is going to watch this afterwards, and Esperanza, another gal, might also want to watch this afterwards. So we'll have
hi, Jim and Janet.
What's that?
I said hi, Jim and Janet.
Ah, they say hi.
Can they hear me?
Hi, Yash.
Janet, you can hear everything? Okay. Okay, so Yash, you want to tell us about the homework?
The homework that I didn't do?
Oh, okay.
I have a good excuse. I was not here last week.
Oh, okay. So you didn't get the full depth of explanation. So I'm going to go ahead and mute you, Yash. And then Janet is really excited to share a story. So Janet, why don't you go next, and then we'll hear from Jim.
Where we're reaching out to others for their satisfaction of ourselves, and how can we stop it? I work in a church, and so all of the high school youth and the youth pastors have gone for 10 days on a big gathering thing, and they just got back, and they're like trying to turn my world upside down. And like I got a phone call, why didn't you do that? Why aren't you doing that? And all of this stuff, and I just, like, I don't want their reinforcement of me, and I don't want to be sucked to their energy, and I'm not trying to please them. And so, like, it's just been calmly repeating what's going on, and calmly saying it again and again, and then we're like, oh, we're really sorry, and then I'm just, like, calmly saying it again. I came to one of this big youth gathering that was in Detroit, and I think so many times when youth go places to gatherings, they're so about head stuff and doing stuff and not spiritual stuff. And then I've had this time of just really depth with God and, time with Him and, or, kind of letting go of people bossing me around, but letting God be my guide. And so I've been in this really calm place, and I've been in this really high energy place, and this class is quite a challenge. It's not done yet either.
Yeah, but there's one thing that I've been learning that really helps me when there's a big clash with the environment around me and myself is I think one of the problems that I have two of the reasons I think why I have a challenge with that. One is because I'm defining myself by what they're doing, and there's something about, in a way that's a situation where you can separate yourself some more, where you can say that, this is what is going on with them, but it doesn't have to be what defines me. And then the other piece that I think about is, instead of being in absorbing mode, be in sending mode. So instead of thinking that the situation is defined by what these people are doing, remember that you're a co-creator in the situation as well, even if there's a majority that's different. And if you send loving energy out to these other people, that's going to make a difference in the way that they interact with you, even if they don't factually like some of the things that you're doing. There's something inside them that's going to feel a little better. But let me bring this to another layer as well with that. And this is also, I feel some of what may or may not come up in this section, but I posted a video on my Facebook profile and in the Facebook group as well from this man named Matt Kahn. I've watched 3.5 of his videos in the last couple days because he so clearly articulates all of these messages that I've been thinking about, and the Bhagavad Gita, a lot of that as well too, even though I don't know if he's even read the Gita. Most of his knowledge comes from his own intuition, and part of what is happening here, and this is, it's he articulates it well, but it's something that I've tried to communicate before, which is just everything is, we have the potential for everything inside our body, and so it means the good things and the bad things, they all exist within us, and we could go in any direction at any moment. And one thing is learning to have control, so we don't fear going in a lower direction, that we have enough upward moving direction that we don't move in the lower direction. And then the other piece is to what was I going to say? Learning to have control, and then also learning to accept that exists within you as well. Learning to love yourself, learning to love that peace that exists within you. When you can accept the existence of those downward moving traits that have the potential to exist within you, it doesn't bother you as much that that's going on for someone else. Because it's like they're part of you, you're part of them. It's an acceptance of all that is. There's one other point, it was kind of nice, that Swami wrote. It's either in the Gita or these notes that I have from him, where he basically said, I think it's in these notes. Let me pull that up, because I like the way he worded it. Anything that limits consciousness causes pain. Anything that expands it causes joy. So another way to look at that situation is to just ask the question, what could expand your consciousness in that moment? Never mind what's going on with them, because that's harder to control. What could expand your personal consciousness in that moment? Because obviously something going on there feels like it's contracting, it's downward moving. That doesn't feel good to you because you don't want to move in that direction. Does that help? You there, Janet?
Okay, I had to go and plug in my phone in order to get unmuted. It helps.
Yeah.
Because it's all looking like energy representing, and so I've only been doing that while they've been gone.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had some clashes at work, just spirituality versus kind of a Lutheran thing,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a very heart, soul kind of person, and so we had a lot of these conflicts before.
Yeah.
Just, to be 10 days without it, feel so free, and then it's like, whack. Like, I'm messing up out here. And what it's done is I've just said to them, like, I'm going to be flexible with things. Let's just figure out what's going on. And, I'm a flexible person. And you guys remember that about me?
Yeah.
And I just can't imagine what they've been through the past 10 days and coming back. Their plane got delayed. They got back 24 hours later than they were supposed to. 3 adults, 20 kids. What a nightmare, right?
Yeah. But I would ask yourself too, you could take this risk. This is something else that Matt Kahn was really stressing. If you watch his talk about the twin flames versus soulmates, because it isn't just in the romantic sense, it's really anyone in your life. And the twin flame, you can imagine, is somebody that you're working out karma with. And the soulmate is somebody where there's already an alignment of energy. It's smooth and calm. Maybe some things come up, but they easily blow over. And you can stay in a twin flame relationship, but you don't have to. And that's the thing. It's like you sometimes, and they say this in the Path with Ananda, that sometimes you gain more karma by staying in a karmic challenge. And the interesting thing is we have all of these reasons as to why we feel like we need to be somewhere, and it traps us in this situation where karmic things are coming up. And if you do have to be there, then go into one of these ideas that helps you feel more expansive and loving what you don't like in them, loving that part that exists within you, and trying to heal that part that exists within you that you don't like about them.
Got it.
I know it's not easy to hear that kind of thing, but I think really the relief comes in just not putting yourself down, but acknowledging that everything exists within you. So it's like you have the potential in any moment for anything, which is good or bad. And so it's just love that. And if you don't know how, you just ask the question, God, Jesus, whichever saint you're working with or leader, help me to learn how to love myself and others with this thing happening.
Well, and then also realizing the love that they need.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what's going on. It's like, I think I have a calming influence on people there, and it's focus on a relationship with God, right? And so they've been away from that. And I think what's happening is all these people are like, I've got to get this for Janet, I have to get this for Janet, but they just start humorous ways.
Yeah, that's so sweet. Another example that Matt Kahn gave, which I thought was a really good example, he was saying that he went to I think it was the pharmacy to pick up some medication. And he could tell the pharmacist had just probably already had a really stressful day and had just been on the phone with an incredibly challenging person. And so by the time he gets to the front of the line, she's at the worst of her worst, the bottom of the bottom. So she just starts talking like, yes, what do you want? And, how can I help you? And she's really kind of mad. And he just starts stumbling over himself and stuttering and saying all these extra things that you wouldn't normally need to say, but you say because you've gotten completely thrown off by this other person's energy. And he just said to inside himself, okay, I see, this is off. How do I turn this around? And what he just looked at the lady at the pharmacy, and then he realized what he could say to her was, it looks like or something along the lines of it looks like you just had a challenging phone call. You must deal with all certain types of characters and challenges coming from people in this job, and you're doing such a great job at it. And that completely changed the situation. You know, part of it was that she received love in the situation, and he turned himself into being a loving being versus being frustrated by her off energy. So he turned into, instead of being absorbing, to be giving, to be sending. And then she softened. She calmed down. She's like, yeah. And then they could handle the whole situation a lot more smoothly from there. I do that all the time when I'm in line for one of these things and I can already see in advance that the person at the register is really frustrated. I just automatically go there and I say something to them that is going to make them feel better about themselves, and then I know my interaction is going to be better.
Online, like an online chat about an order that we had made, and you can tell the defensiveness, like she's had some bad customers today. And I did that very thing. I'm like, you're doing a great job. You don't have to apologize to me. It's not, you know, it's a problem is somewhere else. It's not you, and you're listening to me. That's awesome, you know, and you're right.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, like, just like when I responded to the email that I got prior to our meeting, just like, welcome home. I haven't even had a chance to say that. You know, and that's huge when you say that. It like opens the door for their sharing, not just like jumping into where I've been.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for sharing all that and for being open and honest. Jim? What would you like to share about your homework?
I sort of tackled the other aspect where you were talking about gratification.
Mm-hmm.
And this was sort of cool because one of the things I think I struggle with the most is in terms of food is chocolate. And I had real heavy chocolate cravings.
Is that why you didn't want to be on the video, because you have chocolate all over your face?
No, you know, actually the video thing, to be honest, I think when I got this laptop in 2008, and I'm not computer savvy enough to know the whole answer to this, so maybe you guys can help me out here, but when I got this laptop in 2008, it didn't come with the webcam. So if there's some way that I can bypass that,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, take Babaji off the screen and put my face on, I'd certainly be willing to do that, but my computer knowledge is not.
Yeah, I actually use a webcam that I plug in to my laptop because it's a little bit better than the webcam. So you can look into, for your type of laptop, you know, what outlet is the right kind.
Okay, because I really would like to, you know, be able to interact with all of you.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of unfair for me to see, you know, you and Yash, and you know, for you, Babaji, to be staring back at both of you. So, you know,
we don't mind looking at Babaji. Do you want to tell us about your homework?
Yeah, the homework in terms of the chocolate cravings. This was cool because I was driving down the road the other day, and it started to hit, and then it took me about 10 seconds before actually the homework assignment came to mind. Mm-hmm. And I thought, oh, this is like a gratification thing. And so I pulled into the nearest parking lot, and at that point I did some haul and saw, and I was able to bypass that, you know, craving at that particular time, which I thought was sort of cool because
Perfect.
I don't know if the homework assignment had not jumped into my mind at that point, I don't know, the outcome may have turned different, you know, but I thought, oh, this is cool, gratification, you know, and then Hall and Saw jumped into my mind and said, okay, this is a good application of that, you know, homework assignment. So that was sort of a cool assignment.
Perfect. Yeah, you know, I just led the online cleanse, and one of the tips that I give people is because you're eating differently and it might not feel as filling as what you're used to. You know, getting over the food cravings is doing a spiritual practice.
Yeah. Well, you know, when I was at Ananda back in 2005, 10 years ago, when I spent 6 months there, I lost like 30 pounds, you know, because, you know what I mean? You know what it's like to eat there all the time. And that is one that when Master said, environment is stronger than willpower, I always think in terms of, especially like food, it really applies, I think,
Yeah.
at least to me. And I know I'm so looking forward to getting back to Ananda one of these days, because I know that I'll be back in that same position again, and I can't wait. You know what I mean? It's just it's fantastic. So, anyways, but thank you for the homework assignment, because that came in very helpful and handy and very practical this week. So thank you.
Good. You're very welcome. Very, very welcome. So let's start looking at this chapter. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually only make it through the first stanza, because there's a lot of meat in that first stanza. And in Asha's talk, when she's talking about the Bhagavad Gita and this chapter, right away she says, same message, different words. And I think, Yash, you can probably attest to that we do start to, at a certain point as you're reading through the book, understand the essence, and then you hear it over and over again in a different ways. And this chapter is trying to get into a little bit of the bigger picture of the essence, of going more into the idea that really everything that we do in life is for ego transcendence. And that's the main crux of everything that happens in life. Why do we have things come to us where something that somebody else does bothers us? Because there's something in our ego as well that that's a mirror of, and so that's the signal to tell you, oh, there's something in myself there to transcend. When things don't go the way you want, there's something to transcend there. Everything that happens, the physical manifestation, is a reflection of what is going on inside. And Yash, why don't you read just the stanza of 6-1 for us, please? And you'll have to unmute yourself. Yeah, Yash, you have to unmute yourself. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Did you say 6-1?
Yes. Starting from the top.
The Blessed Lord said, the true renunciate and the true yogi are those who perform dutiful action without desiring their fruits, not those who, eschewing self-offering, act with ego motivation, nor those who, in the name of renunciation, eschew action.
Do you know, is it pronounced eschew or eschew?
I don't know. I was wondering. I was going to ask you.
Oh, I thought it was eschew.
You?
I don't know. I actually looked up the word, though, to get the definition, just to make sure I understood it. But it's really like avoiding something. And it's nice in this passage and in the commentary, because they're addressing both sides of the story. They're addressing the person who decides to be a renunciate, and they're addressing the person who lives in the world, and to make sure that the renunciate isn't just eschewing their worldly duties out of laziness, but really because there isn't a need karmically for them to go through those steps anymore. And then the person in the world can't eschew their spiritual duties. Just because they're living out in the world, somehow they have to find a way to coordinate all of those things together. Yash, did you want to say any comments on that passage before I keep going with some more thoughts?
Well, I just had a reaction to something that Janice said, which is that sometimes when I'm in really trying situations, I try to remind myself that nothing is done to me, everything is done for me.
Oh, that's a great way to say that.
Yeah. And just thinking about, okay, this is really unpleasant, but what can I get out of the situation, or why is it, ideas about maybe why this is happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. And I mentioned this last week, and I will write that blog soon, maybe even tomorrow morning, of when somebody is even doing something to you or attacking you, you can almost allow them to take that piece out of you, allow them to attack you, because in truth they can't touch your soul, and anything that they might be trying to take from you is like, it's not your good self. It's pieces of karma that are wrapped in there. And so it's because when this visualization happened and this person was trying to take from me, when I said, okay, you take, and then I realized that I felt better after I let him take. And so sometimes there's just like, if you could just be, and I want to practice this more, in complete relaxation of whatever comes to you, to just let it come, and say, I can handle it. You just be in the situation as long as you need to, and then you get out. You don't have to keep putting yourself into that situation. And then you are right that it's happening for you, because it's God giving you a message for you and your personal growth. It really happens for both of you, even though it seems like it's happening to you. When growing up, one of my first role models was Maya Angelou, and she was on the Oprah Winfrey Show, which I used to watch every day with my mother. And she gave me just a very simple phrase, which is, "You're not in it." And I've really tried to remember that anytime that things come up, because it's so easy over and over again to constantly get caught up with some sort of challenge that somebody is bringing to you. And there's this other side where you can say you're not in it. And it's just that you have the choice not to go into it. That's how you're not in it. And their action has to do with the pain that is going on inside them. It's coming to you because there's something for you to learn there, for sure. But their behavior is just about them. Good. Yeah. So maybe I'll keep going and talk a little bit more about this this passage here, and then if I don't catch you when you want to say something, you could try just putting a note in the chat window for Jim and Yash, and then Janet, you can just make a beep noise or something. But I'll make sure I keep checking in with you guys. But in case I don't catch you, and then when I see you want to talk, once I finish the thought I'm saying, I'll pull you in there. And so if you continue to read in the text, it says that Krishna already stated that action, whether outward or inward, is essential for the aspirant. One who has transcended the need for outward activity can do so only in the breathless state, for then alone can one work dynamically with the subtle inner energies. And the first thing he's talking about with outward and inward action, and this goes back to this comparison between, and they use the term samsara, which is somebody who is living out life through, and the spiritual path through interactions with the world, and going through more of the typical things like getting married, having kids, having the job, just living a life outside in the world. Whereas the renunciate, the sannyasi, who lives completely secluded from the world, and so the inward action would be meditation. The outward action is just any other type of action that you do, but in either of those we want to remember God, and that's different than inaction, no activity, where Swami, part of why Swami Kriyananda made the new renunciate order is because there's so many people that are called swamis that are doing that more out of laziness than out of tuning into a higher aspiration. I mean, in India, it's very common for swamis to basically live on the streets and just beg. And the purpose of that is that the people who are making money give money to this person who's spending all this time working on spirituality, because then they feed you back with spirituality. But a lot of them are just getting lazy and taking the money, and not really practicing anything, not really sharing anything in return with the world. So that's that's sort of the differences between inaction and action, and inward action and outward action. And then the other thing they're saying here is going into the breathless state. And last week I talked a little bit about meditation and Kriya Yoga, and I mentioned the Hong Sa technique as well. And Jim, you were just saying the Hong Sa technique was helping you reduce cravings for chocolate. And when you practice the Hong Sa technique over a period of time, the breath slows down, and it eventually gets to the point where you are breathless. Now, the breath, remember, is what it ties you into the functioning of the body. It's the dualities. It's the up and the down. And so if we don't even need to breathe for a moment, then it's like we take a layer away that pulls you into something else, and we can go more deeply into the essence that's within, with soul and with the God. Does that make sense? You can just nod your head or type yes if it does. Okay, good. And then the other point here in this passage that's really important to note, we're talking about the renunciate and the non-renunciate, but I believe that everyone is a renunciate, which is also why Swami created the new renunciate order, where married people could be considered renunciates. And I believe that it's more about how you do what you do than what you do. And Matt Kahn, again, he gave a good example of this. If somebody is sitting down for dinner and they order lasagna, and the waiter says, red wine would go really well with that lasagna. Would you like that as well? And you're sitting there and you say, I'm open-minded and I'm curious, and this waiter is recommending that, so that might be a nice adventure to go on and try that out. Or you could take this in a different direction, and you're sitting down for dinner, you order lasagna, and the waiter says to you, red wine would go really well with that. Would you like to have some? And you say, well, gosh, I've had a really hard day, and so I just deserve to unwind and have red wine with my lasagna. Now, which of those, you could even watch in my body posture in the way that I was saying that, which of those takes you in a more upward, expansive direction, and which of those takes you in a more downward direction? And so we have to remember that it's not about the things, it's not about what you do, it is more about how you do it. What is your relationship with it? What is going to help you grow and expand in reaction to something? And there was this other thing. I was just talking to a friend of mine a couple hours ago, and we're sort of both talking about our future plans and ideas, and she would like to go, she already works, she's been working anyways, she just retired, but at a high school and working with kids, and she's kind of like a high school counselor in a way, and she's been training to be a life coach. And there's a job that she's curious about, that she's interested in, where you would be a life coach to basically to high schoolers. And then there's another type of work that she's looking at where it would be nice to do that for college students, and it's for these kids that are taking the next step, from high school to college, and then at the end of college to work. And how do you make this transition possible? And I'm just, noticing the way that she's speaking about this. And while she was talking, I remembered a comment that somebody had made about sort of higher work and lesser work. And when somebody's consciousness is at a certain level, they're not interested in this type of work and only this type of work. And as I'm listening to her, I just said, whoa, I need to erase that thought. This is me doing my energy healing. Erase that thought from my mind, because I'm listening to her and I'm like, she is integrating the spiritual path and the teachings in both the advice that she's offering these kids and the way that she is interacting with them personally. And what she's doing is almost even a higher way, is to say, how do I integrate the spiritual teachings with with everything, with the daily life? How do I put the two together for people? So it might seem like she's helping people with worldly matters, but she's helping them do it in a spiritual way, in a way that's going to help them be more expansive in their process. Anybody want to chime in with any comments there? Or questions? Okay. I'll keep going. Okay, so this is kind of a fun topic to think about. And the next thing that the passage is going into is our relationship with ego. And I've mentioned in the past that we can use our ego more as a tool, like a carpenter uses a hammer, rather than letting the hammer control the carpenter, rather than letting the ego control ourselves. And we can learn to have a sense of non-attachment with it. One of the things that both Paramhansa Yogananda and Swami Kriyananda really stressed is to understand this idea of the four main mental qualities. And it's mun, which is the mind, and I didn't write that correctly. Make sure I say it right to you. Buddhi, which is the intellect, ahankar, which is the ego, and chittva, which is feeling. So initially what happens is that let's say there's a horse your horse in front of you, and the first thing that happens is that the mind just acts like a mirror, and the mind sees the visual of the horse. The mind is kind of like a blank slate, so it doesn't define that anyway. It doesn't even have the word to say, what this culture calls that. The intellect comes in and creates the definition, that's a horse. It goes into the understanding of how we've defined it and how we communicate what that is. But you could take it to the next layer where the ego comes in, and the ego says, that's my horse. So this is where we start to get into some attachment. But you could still say that's my horse because the standards of this world are to say, I own this and I own that. But you can still not be attached to it. It was funny. I was thinking about, I want to move some money around, and I'm sort of hearing, I've put my money into different investments, and I'm hearing the people talk who are managing that money and sort of claiming this, they have so much control over it. And I'm sitting here going, well, that's my money. Like, they should just give it to me. Like, why do these people have so much control? And then I remembered, oh, this is the next thing for me to learn. It's not even my money. It's just I gave it to them, I put it in their hands. It's not my money, and even if I kept it and put it under a mattress, the world might change tomorrow where the money collapses and the paper dollar is worthless anymore. So this is something that's just on loan to me from the universe, and if I get it, I get it. I can use it. If I don't get it, it's not really mine. Anyways, it's just something that I'm using, so it just helps create less of an attachment. The next layer that comes in is chittva, the feeling. And you look at the horse, so you said this is my horse, but then you have the feeling associated with it. I love that horse. So that creates a greater level of attachment because you start bringing in the heart and this passion for the horse, and that ties you in more deeply when we have feeling. So now we've got feeling, and you go back through that process, and feeling then creates the definition within the mind. And so we start to create the thoughts from the mind and the intellect based from feeling. So last week I was telling you guys about a meeting that I had last week where I was very angry, just to put it bluntly, and one of the things that came up was the person telling me, this is this way because we don't have the money. And I was a little sensitive about it because the things being that way really hurt somebody's feelings and excluded them from a situation, and so I was also kind of defending their honor in terms of trying to bring out truth, and I said to him, well, you know, that's not really the reason why this person isn't here, because we don't have money because, you know, people decided not to put money into, you know, what we're doing here. And, you know, and then you can go into the next layer of why did they decide not to put money into that? You know, so the mind comes up with the story, we don't have money, but that's not truth. That's not the layer that we can break down to, because, you know, like I said, you go into, well, there was a decision by the fundraising team that we're no longer going to fundraise this. You know, we're going to put our money elsewhere. And then you go into the next layer, you know, why are you deciding that you're going to put money elsewhere? Because you don't believe in this project anymore, or because the people in it are not aligned enough with you. And so actually what you're wanting to do is create a system where you have more alignment with the people involved. And you're using this idea about money as an excuse because you're afraid to come forward and just say that truth. I mean, I'm just throwing some hypothetical thing out there. It may or may not be that's the case in this situation, but hopefully I'm trying to create some understanding of these games that the mind plays. But as I've come to this understanding and I'm watching things more and more and I'm hearing what people say, and you know, how many times do people say one thing but then they go out and they do that? You know, or you know, that they don't want to do it and then they do it, or that they do want to do it and direction goes somewhere else. And yeah, of course, sometimes things change, but sometimes it's because people are not even aware of the deeper layers that started with chitva, you know, with the feelings, and you know, maybe part of even what led into why do I want a team that's more aligned, because I want more control over the situation, or because, you know, I'm afraid that that person's going to take over. I'm afraid I'm not going to be a success because we don't have enough, you know, alignment here, and it's not going to move in the direction that I feel is going to be successful. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, can I jump in here for a second?
Yeah, jump in for a second, and then I'm going to give you guys an exercise.
Okay. I had sort of a similar example just a couple days ago on Sunday afternoon.
Okay. Let me give you guys the exercise, and then I'll have you share first, Jim, okay?
Okay.
Okay. I love your enthusiasm and just your excitement to share. It's really, really great to keep the energy moving when we have people who want to share a lot, which is what all three of you are doing. So you can close your eyes for a moment, but it's easier to think about this when there's something that isn't quite working as smoothly as you would like, because you know, that's somewhere where you have a lesson to learn right now. So first, just think of the situation that's not running as smoothly as you would like, and just state the facts in your head, like, you know, these people want to go do all these activities, and they asked me, why don't you want to join us? So it's not they sounded angry, they sounded jealous, they were prodding me, right? That's the emotional layer. So just stay with more of the intellect layer, you could say, of this. And just pick one situation. And now you can dig down either inside yourself or inside the other people, because digging inside the other people digs inside yourself anyways. And just ask the question, why are they acting this way? And then when you get an answer to that, ask again why. And when you get an answer to that, ask again why. And just see, you know, how many layers you can go through to get to the core, which is going to be some sort of feeling. So hopefully you've gotten to some depth there. And now what I want to do is recreate the situation inside of you. Never mind what's going on outside. Recreate inside of you. So you've got a feeling fear, anger, and anger comes from something not going the way you want. So then you have to turn that around, and fear is concern of not being able to get what you want. So whatever that piece is, I want to turn it around and say, it's like, what is it that you really want? But what's the experience that you want? What do you want to feel inside? What's the positive side? What's the more expanding, uplifting side of this situation that you could feel differently within yourself? So now you've got this idea, hopefully, of what it is you really, really want. And just while you're sitting there, see if there's something that you could do to shift the way your body is holding itself if this feeling or experience was existing right now within you. Think about what would you do right now so that you can feel that way? What would you say right now so that you could feel that way? Where would you feel it in your body? So the idea here is that there is the physical manifestation in the world around you that's a reflection of what is going on inside. And we don't need the world around. Yogananda said circumstances are neutral. So we don't need the world around us to try to match that piece of us, per se, that wants the experience. We just need to feel that inside, and that becomes what happens on the outside. So Jim, you want to jump in and share your story, and then I want you to share what the experience is that you're hoping for, so we turn it around to the uplifting side of things.
Yeah, I think this is going to be perfect because I sort of did all of these steps on Sunday afternoon. I was in the midst of working on a book review that one of my bosses had asked me to do, and after I had finished the review, I gave him a call and we touched bases. He had a couple things he wanted me to correct, and then he said it was fine to turn in. So I said, cool. And I started working on the couple corrections. And as I was doing so, there was a huge storm that started to manifest outside. I live here in the Midwest in Ohio, and at this time of year, we get these storms come out of nowhere very quickly. And so I made all the corrections, and I decided to proofread it a couple times. And as I got done proofreading the second time, I thought, okay, one more proofread, and then I'm going to hit the send button, and everything will be cool. Everything's done. And as I started to proofread that third time, all of a sudden there was this huge lightning flash outside, huge thunder, and the light in my room started flickering on and off. And 2 seconds later, the power went out. And once that power went out, my finger went right to the enter key. And I started hitting that enter key to enter, to send my work.
Yeah.
And it was too late.
Yeah.
The power completely just destroyed everything that I had done, all the corrections I had done. And if you want to know the emotion that I felt at that particular time, when it registered in my head what really happened, I was just livid. I was in a rage. I mean, it wasn't anger. I went from 0 to 50 in like 1 second, you know what I mean? Because I realized, oh my gosh, I just lost everything that I had done. I can't get it back. It's dead. And my body was so tense. It was almost like an involuntary reaction where I just, you know.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah. Well, and what is it though?
You know, this is
what is it that makes you respond that way?
This is what it is. And I don't know if you guys have a similar reaction or not when you enter into either anger or rage. But when I enter into either anger or rage, I'm actually able to watch myself, watch the thoughts that come across the screen when I get into that type of anger. And so the thoughts that were coming across were things like, why did I have to come back to this silly town? I should still be in California. I should never have had to come back here. You know, these were the thoughts that were rolling across the screen of my mind as I was escalating.
So you were feeling like this was happening because maybe you made the wrong decision.
Yeah, well, it's not so much I made the wrong decision, but it's like, why did I have to be put in that position to make that decision in the first place? You know, in other words, my ego, the ahamkara here, is saying things like, you see, you should never have left California. This is what happens when you decide to accommodate somebody else when you really wanted to stay in California where you'd been for 25 years. You know, you said that when you left at age 20 from Ohio that you were never coming back to Ohio. Do you remember that? And so all these thoughts are like floating through my head. Yeah. And so this was the thoughts that was going on, and this is the ego involvement that was going on. And then the emotion was the rage. And so I actually had to get up out of my seat, and I was so much adrenaline was coming through me that I walked around and around and around and around, and finally I was able to say, whoa, you know, it's not the end of the world. I can do the corrections again. The power came back on. You know, I'll be able to correct it. And immediately I sunk down into, I sat down on the floor and I started doing some kriyas because I was so revved up that the kriyas came very easily. You know what I mean? The breath and everything. Yeah. I mean, no problem.
So what is the emotion that you want?
The emotion
that you want.
Yeah, the emotion that eventually came back was the tranquility and the peace.
Good.
But I had to go through that process of going through the anger, going through the rage, going through the de-escalation process by doing the kriyas. So all of this was a sort of like a unified whole, progressing from step to step to step to step.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, and I would encourage you to. We only have 5 more minutes, so I want to give Janet and Yash a moment to think about this. But I would encourage you to ask even more questions about, you know, what is the issue with yourself with, you know, making wrong decision or, you know, coming back. Like, are you, you know, concerned that that you're not going to be taken seriously, that you don't know how to make good decisions, you're not a person of your word, you don't follow through. I mean, you're choosing something lesser rather than higher for yourself. And, you know, don't answer that right now, and you don't even have to tell us, but just give yourself that time, because you will see layer after layer after layer that you can go into with these situations. So thank you for sharing all that, Jim.
You're welcome.
Yash, would you like to share next? Oh, you have to unmute yourself first, Josh.
Yeah, here we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, when you were talking about using the ego, it made me think about how the warrior can use anger. Anger is not something that we normally want to seek out, but it can be used as a tool And likewise, I know sometimes my ego motivation, and this sounds a little bit similar to what Jim experienced, sometimes my ego motivations can help me get to the bottom of what the situation really is.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly to what I'm really feeling about something, but perhaps even to some deeper truths about what is really going on, or what is really important. And just as a warrior needs to be able to sort of extract himself from the throes of anger when that's needed, we need to be able to use. I like to be able to use ego and then not buy into it, in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Not really get attached to, not get permanently attached to the egoic motivations that I'm feeling, but just, gain the knowledge from the insights and then withdraw out of that.
Yeah, good. Good. And so what is the feeling that you came out of thinking about your situation that you want, the experience that you're looking for?
The feeling, I think, a sense of tranquility.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Janet, do you want to share something? She just said thank you, Yash.
Yeah. So a couple things I just jotted down. You're not in it. I thought that was kind of cool. But that's something I've had to work with a lot in my current position is, oh, that's very true. I don't have to jump in. It's like there's a muddy pool there and everybody's in it. And it's like, oh, they chose to jump in that pool. I can go and just clean one over here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of important. And then through that visualization thing, what came was just communication, direct communication, and stick with that direct communication. When people ask for clarification, instead of saying it again, go, well, look at the response that I already said.
Mm-hmm.
And put it back, because that's going to take them, it's like they're running away from what you're saying, but just put them right back to it. And when you were saying go deeper, it's the same thing. It's like, go back to what I said. Go back to what I said. And so because in that communication, if whether I'm being direct, they're not hearing it, I'm not being direct, they're asking me to be, but it's just like, sort of communication that has to be dialogue to get to where you're trying to communicate. Because so many times we're hearing stuff that isn't being said, and they're saying stuff they have no idea they're saying.
Yeah.
And it's like, what's really happening here?
I love this. There's one person interested in the Gita study, but she keeps writing to me saying, I don't have time to prepare. And I keep writing back and saying, that's fine. We read through the passages, during the session, and it's only a couple pages for each one. And she keeps writing back the same thing, I don't have time to prepare. And I keep writing back saying, it doesn't really take any time to prepare. And by the third time I'm doing this, I'm like, well, I'm just going to say the same thing again and keep playing this game. But let's see if she figures out within her that maybe she really doesn't want to do this, and she's just trying to be supportive of my energy, or she's trying to come up with excuses to hold herself back from rising higher in the light. That's different than I don't have time, because I keep telling her it doesn't take any time. And so that's that's where we can get to those layers and say, really, what the mind is saying something, but that didn't come from the mind. It came from somewhere else, and what is it? And then let's work with that thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then something else that came up is, I can't remember who said it, it might have been you, but there's a history and then there's the story. So history is the facts of what happened, and story is our story of what happened. And sometimes it's way better than the facts. Sometimes it even doesn't. Like, we're getting solar panels put on where I work, and we did a news thing, and a person on the news thing, instead of saying we're doing it to save money, they said we thought it would be a good role modeling to the community if we put solar
Yeah.
It's just a story that that person created for himself rather than, and then how, like, even the Gita is a whole history. There's a lot of story in it that has
Yeah.
both that. The Bible's the same way. And story isn't bad. It's not a lie. It's just story.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, it's some things are kind of dramatic, really, in the story of the Mahabharata, and it goes beyond what maybe the original story was, and it's there to keep you captured and captivated and interested, but the purpose of it, that story is really to go into the essence of the allegorical understanding. So what is the feeling that you are hoping to cultivate? The experience that you want? If you put it in a one-word feeling word.
Peace was my favorite feeling.
So we have peace and tranquility. Yeah, good. Thank you. So I think that for this next week, let's make it our goal to, one, when we hear things, and this is your intuition, like something will feel off inside of you. Remember the quote that I read from Swami Kriyananda earlier that he wrote, if it doesn't feel right, it's not going to feel expansive, it's going to feel contractive. So something that doesn't feel right, whether you said it or somebody else did, and then dive into the layers of that and then rebuild it with the layers that you want to rebuild it within yourself. Does that sound like a good plan?
Yes.
Okay. I put on the showcase tab of the Google Hangout, I put 2 links in there. One of those is a PayPal link, so if you have the time to help me continue to test PayPal, you can use that link. I did talk with PayPal and make some corrections, but I'm going to test that link for a while before I put it on the website. So if you don't have the patience or that doesn't work for you, then click on the other link directly to my website, and I put a new donate button in there that goes to a different company's register account. Sound good?
So you still take $1 million bills?
Yeah, but I can only take $1 million bills through PayPal because the other donate amount, unfortunately, I had to put in amounts that people donate. So I didn't put in $1 million, but maybe I can add it if you want to give me $1 million. So I thank you all very, very much for being here. Next week, I'm just waiting to see exactly what my plans are and if my family is joining me. If my father's traveling from a distance. Actually, I do need to figure out my plans. But it's possible on Wednesday night I might be able to lead the Gita study. And that would be, I could do it at 7 p.m. Pacific time, 10 p.m. Eastern time. Otherwise, would Friday night work for any of you? Yash, what time do you need to leave the house to get ready for Friday night? I can't hear you. You're muted, Yash.
Oftentimes I need to leave at like 4 or 5.
Oh, okay. So that's too early. Okay. Well, we might just have to pick the date that I'm available, and then hopefully some of you could come. Does that sound good? It's going to be a little bit rocky for possibly even the next couple months because I'm doing a lot of traveling and going through transition. And then after that, we'll talk about how to make it a little bit more steady. So I have an idea as to how to do that. So I hope you all have a good rest of your evening, and thanks for staying awake, Jim, to join us.
Oh heavens, this was a piece of cake this week. Thank you for changing the time.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. Many blessings.
Blessings to you.